He would not accept the guilty plea. He waited and waited for the lawyer and the man to decide. The man complied with Judge Bryant. The man will be sentenced up to 7 years in prison. It is all very sad. The woman was there with a man who looked like her father and another man who looked like her brother. They led away the man who pled guilty in handcuffs. The U.S. Marshal, one of them, spoke to Glendora and asked her how she made out on her service to Cablevision Nassau. It is really sad that the trouble people get themselves into, the lives they ruin just by not following the 10 Commandments and the Beatitudes. The reply brief was consummated to the appellate division. Glendora did 140 telephone calls and got it up to date. Franklin distributed 4 programs to Continental Cable DV for the next month. The Glendora versus Cablevision Nassau story has to be videotaped for the last 3 weeks. What happened, all the papers read, starting with Judge Bryant's plaintiff's motion for default judgment, would have been granted. To Glendora's opposition to Kalaji's dumb reply affidavit. Then it has to be edited, then it has to be distributed to 9 cable TV companies to be cablecast. That is going to be some story. A cable company violates freedom of speech and it is reported on cable TV. At 5:30 p.m. on White Plains Public Access, Glendora watched a chat with Glendora. It is very effective reading the public record. This is what upset the politicians and judges in Nassau County who brought pressure on Cablevision to violate the First Amendment. 7:40 p.m. to sleep. 10 p.m. up and did some work until 2 a.m., 2 to 5 a.m. slept, but no time for Cablevision Nassau. The auctioneer said sold to the woman with her husband's hand over her mouth. On Tuesday, February the 15th, 1994, Tuesday, Monday, Glendora called every Cablevision Nassau defendant. They are never on the job. Absenteeism is rampant. Tuesday morning, she made the rounds again. Not in. Wasn't expected. Not sure. This has gone on since November. These people are never on the job. They're absent. Osnar is on vacation after telling Glendora last Friday, I demanded his home address for service. He refused it. I demanded it again. This is about the 7th time he's refused it. And Osnara said, serve it to me on Cablevision and we will be happy to receive it. So Monday when we tried to serve it to him on Cablevision, he wasn't in, on vacation for a week. They are running scared. What an existence. What you read here will be read on TV. What a day this was. We started work on the 4th service upon the Cablevision Nassau defendants at 1:30 p.m. Glendora had done 1.5 hours work on Cablevision Nassau before that. The total time, counting 2 people, was 17.5 hours, and what happened is detailed in the affidavit of personal service mailed to you. Here's the docket. The docket costs 50 cents a page. So here's $2.50 worth of docket. But I think the feds do a good job on these dockets. A lot better than the county clerks, the county courts. Now, so 50 cents a page. I asked my mother for 50 cents to see the elephant jump the fence. This elephant jumped so high he touched the sky and never came back until the 4th of July. Page 19, this is the log that I'm reading to you from. We have to get this log out to the defendants. They've never received it. What happened? February the 16th, 1994, Wednesday, Ash Wednesday. Lent has started. 5:40 a.m. Franklin began typing the affidavit of personal service from yesterday. At 6:40 a.m. we went to the 7 o'clock service at church to start Lent. At 7:40 a.m. we all had a delicious breakfast prepared by the women of the church, and boy, can they cook. The minister had burned our palms from Palm Sunday, 1993. He burned them to ashes and administered those ashes to us in the sanctuary. Being Congregationalists, the other church members did not participate. The Congregationalists are very plain. They're the Pilgrims. You know, they rebelled against the Church of England, which has quite a lot of they do so many things. Ashes. And I tell the minister that he always has Ashless Wednesday. Well, this year he didn't. The other church members did not participate. This saved Glendora from going to the Episcopal Church in Cablevision territory, Harrison and Port Chester, and getting the ashes there, where she's gone for 3 years because our church had Ashes Wednesday. Because of this personal service on Cablevision yesterday, we missed Fat Tuesday. which was a pancake supper at the Episcopal Church, 6:30 p.m., all on account of these fugitives of service and these people who break the law. The affidavit of service was finished around 10:30 a.m. Then the first-class mailing pursuant to CPLR 308 4 had to be done. Then Glendora called every Cablevision defendant again. Of course, nobody was on the job. It has been this way since November when Glendora first started calling them. Absenteeism is rampant. Glendora made an oral demand for the home address of Osnara, Quinn, Bell, Randolph, and Lustgarten. The squirming, wiggling, fidgeting was outrageous, and it is on audio tape. The deceit, the delay, the deception, the default are disgusting. It is ugly. And here it is Ash Wednesday. Nothing will change them. Then Glendora's answer to Kalaji's dumb letter about the Sunday service had to be opposed. Then it had to be typed with the to list and the affidavit of service. Then Glendora opposed Kalaji's reply affidavit, I'll read you that in a minute, which was more froth. He keeps sending out these papers to Bill Cablevision. They are dumb enough to swallow it. This had to be typed. By 3:45 p.m. we slung everything into 4 briefcases. Franklin got the affidavit of service notarized. We only had an hour and a half because the post office closes at 5. The federal courthouse is closed at 5. We didn't leave until 3:45 p.m. We got to the affidavits all notarized at the county courthouse tower by the county clerk. Then there was a rush to the printers to get copies done before he closed at 5:30 p.m. Then there was a rush to the federal courthouse to get the 3 submitted to Judge Bryant. What are the 3? A, the affidavit of personal service of Tuesday, which I haven't read you yet. B, Glendora's opposition to Kalaji's letter whining about Sunday service and not mentioning the perfect Saturday service. C, Glendora opposes Kalaji dumb reply affidavit about color of state. Then there was a rush to the post office before they closed at 5 to get these posted. Insert, Glendora left messages with all of the Cablevision defendants that if there was another complaint about the service, they, meaning Glendora and Franklin, would come back and Franklin would serve these defendants a 5th time. Everything was done by 5:45 p.m. The time on Cablevision Nassau today, the 2 of us put in, is about 15 3/4 hours. The cost was about $50 for print and post. Fred says he knows his wife is going to live longer than he has because she has a whole closet full of clothes she wouldn't be caught dead in. On February the 17th, 1994, Thursday, 5:53 a.m., Glendora started cleaning up the mess and the chaos left by the rush yesterday. It took an hour to put away and put in order the madness of the rush. It took another hour to get the logs up to date. Files in order, and then she paginated. And at 6:48 a.m. she was done, and this file is up to page 356 with Kalaji's dumb papers. 6:48 a.m. read some in the rules of service, read some in the rules for demand for jury, Rule 38. Glendora wants to get these Cablevision defendants in for depositions and get the truth out of them. What really happened? They have never answered that. Put it before a jury. People do not like cable companies. Also, people are upset with Charles Dillon in Madison Square Garden, although Glendora thinks he has a right to fight Madison Square Garden the way he did. At 7 a.m. we have to stop and do the telephoning. Time so far on Cablevision today is 2 hours and 10 minutes. Pete says his wife should go into earthquake research. Pete says his wife should get into earthquake research. She's the best fault finder he knows. 9:47 a.m. 80 telephone calls are done with about 60 to go. Finish reading the service rules and the demand for jury rules. It would be a good idea to get these defendants over here and to have them answer some questions. Done at 10:06 a.m. Very interesting cases. The total time today on Cablevision Nassau is 2.5 hours. Ed, my wife always has the last word. Bill, you're lucky. Mine never gets to hers. 3:30 to 7:30 p.m. Glendora edited a chat with Glendora, the program blacked out by tortfeasors Cablevision Nassau. One big series is finished. That's Glendora versus CBS. The little one is finished. That's Glendora and the negligence of the White Plains over the tire that got punctured going into the library garage. So that one is finished. A third one, a medium-sized one, is started, and that's Glendora versus Russell Brower. Next week, Glendora hopes to finish 1/2 of the Cablevision Nassau series on 8mm tapes 3N, 3M, 3O, 3P, and 3Q. March the 4th, the Ides of March, she hopes to finish 3R, 3S, 3C, and 3D. This weekend, she hopes to videotape what happened the last 4 weeks. The videotaping is a month behind. Patricia belongs to a women's hiking group. They call themselves the Walkie Talkies. On February 18, 1994, Friday, Dr. Faustus Kalaji was at the federal courthouse going through security the same time Glendora was. Glendora cannot stand him. We went up in the elevator together. He started spouting he had an affidavit. Well, leave the rest of Glendora's TV report what happened in Judge Bryant's courtroom. That is written, and I'll read that to you later. The time on Cablevision Nassau today was 2.5 hours. On Saturday, February 19th, the boss told Peter there must be some truth to reincarnation. The boss said, did you ever notice at 5 p.m. everybody comes back to life? It took an hour and a half to straighten out the Cablevision Nassau files. Glendora paginated. Everything is up to date. We're up to page 373. All it takes is a lying lawyer, and what other kind is there? What has to be done? A, write out what happened in Bryant courtroom, February the 18th. That's my alarm telling me it's time to go on retreat. I cannot go on retreat because I have to finish this report, and I have to finish about 4 details, and we're behind at least 5 days. I cannot go on retreat. What has to be done? A, write out what has happened in the Judge Bryant courtroom on February 18th. B, go to Pace Law Library and research the cases in the law. 3, appeal the bad decision of Judge Bryant. 4, look up other law. And happen log, and the joke of the day, other than what happens in the courts, is Dad's advice to his 4 sons: work like a dog, eat like a horse, think like a fox, run like a rabbit. And his 4th son said, and visit your veterinarian once a month. So, on Sunday, February the 20th, after church, it took 4 hours, 2 people to oppose Kalaji's and defendant's affidavit of lies, and that's another one you haven't read. It had to be written, typed to list, affidavit of service, and the envelopes. It is awful that people lie so. Greedy cable operators and greedy lawyers. Greedy cable operators and greedy lawyers. Sell their souls. A soul is not worth more than that. Worth more than that? Things to do. Look up the cases at the law library, read the appeal rules, protest, mail out this what happened log, and look tape update to put on television about all these bad things that Cablevision people and their lawyer have done. But it will go on TV, on 9 cable TV systems. What you read here will be read on TV. The time on these tortfeasors this week is 43 3/4 hours. 43 3/4 hours. Marked to the customs agents. You don't have to go through my suitcase. It's only clothes in it. Customs agent, really, what's this bottle of bourbon? Marked, that's my nightcap. And February the 14th, 1994 week. This is an affidavit of service. Glendora plaintiff against Cablevision Systems Corporation, Charles F. Dolan, William J. Bell, Mark A. Lusgarten, Francis F. Randolph, Jr., John Tata, James A. Kofal, Joseph Asnara, Thomas Garger, and William Quinn, defendants. Honorable Charles L. Bryant, Jr. and Franklin L. Buell, being duly sworn and deposed, says, he is over 18 years of age and is not a party to the action and resides at P.O. Box 416, White Plains, New York, 10602. On February 15, 1994, Tuesday at 3:43 p.m., deponent reserved for the 4th time plaintiff's summons with notice and complaint upon Cablevision Systems Corporation, Dolan, Bell, Lusgarten, Randolph, Tata, Kofal, Asnara, Garger, Quinn, by handing to and leaving with Margie Balbert, who said she is a paralegal at 1 Meteor Crossways, Woodbury, New York, 11797. The actual place of business of said defendant's papers marked for each defendant. Deponent asked receptionist on 2nd floor to serve Charles F. Dolan, the first defendant for whom he had summons and complaint. Receptionist did not say whether he was in, but she called his office. In about 8 minutes, Margie Balbert came up the stairs and met deponent, who asked her who she was and whether Mr. Dolan was in. She said she was a paralegal and authorized to accept the service, quote, unquote. Deponent said he had summonses for other executives he would like to serve. Mrs. Balbert, or Ms. Balbert, said she was authorized, quote, to accept them for all employees, unquote. Ms. Balbert is a white female about 35 years of age. Franklin said he could amend that to maybe 30. About 5 feet 9 inches tall, slender, and weighs about 130 pounds. She is blonde and was wearing glasses. At 4:49 p.m. on the same date, deponent went to the Cablevision Center on New South Road, Hicksville, New York, and asked for Thomas Garger, where his office is located. Was told he was not in today, but early in the morning, Glendora was told he was on the telephone. His secretary came to accept the summons. Carrie is a white female, about 25 years old, about 5 feet 6 inches tall, and weighs about 120 pounds. She has shoulder-length blonde hair. Then deponent went to 8 Sherwood Gate, Oyster Bay, New York, the home of defendant John Tatas, to serve him personally. At 5:55 p.m., Brian Crowley, who said he is Mr. Tatas' son-in-law, answered the door. Now, earlier in the morning, Mr. Tatas' daughter said that she would be at home after 4 p.m. to accept the service. She said that I'm his daughter and you're not going to get any closer than that. He said Mr. Tatas is in Florida. This is Brian Crowley, Mr. Tatas' daughter's husband, Mr. Tatas' son-in-law. He said Mr. Tatas in Florida is retired from Cablevision and comes to Long Island only twice a year. I don't believe that. Mr. Crowley refused to accept the summons, saying it should be sent to Mr. Tatas in Florida. Absolutely refused. He said the house is owned by his wife, Mr. Tatas' daughter. Why is Mr. John Tatas listed there in the telephone book at that address? Mr. Crowley said he would not call his wife to the door, saying she was busy with the kids, which is nothing but an excuse and more fugitive of service. Although earlier on the telephone she had said, the daughter, that she would be there at after 4 p.m. and would accept the service. After Mr. Crowley closed the door, deponent attached the summons to the door and also put one in the mailbox by the road at the entrance of the driveway. Now, this is all on audio tape. This was all recorded on audio tape, exactly what Mr. Crowley said. Deponent then went to Cove Neck Road, Oyster Bay, to serve defendant Charles F. Dolan personally. It was dark. There were no street lights. It was deep in the woods. The road was 1 car width. The hills were steep, and the road in spots was icy. It really was icy everywhere. And the wheels kept spinning and spinning. The road was impassable. The car was blocked. Our car was blocking another car. It was too icy to walk, so the deponent abandoned for the time being nail and mail service on Charles F. Dolan. By now it was 6:40 p.m. The deponent backed the car down the icy hill until able to turn the car around at a driveway and drive frontwards. Can you imagine that? Icy hill, a car width wide, and trying to back that car down and keep it out of 2 snowbanks on either side. Snowbanks this high. It was pitch black. After filling the car's tank with gasoline in Oyster Bay, deponent drove to 12 Shady Meadow Lane, Muttontown, the home of defendant William Quinn, for personal service. Daughter Courtney, an infant, answered the door. Is your father at home? She answered no. May I see your mother? She is just getting out of the shower. Mrs. Quinn in a bathrobe came downstairs. She took the summons with notice and complaint. Irritated, she said, do not come to my home. This is a business matter. Serve at my husband's office. She doesn't know that the law requires personal service at home. Franklin said the law requires personal service at home, deponent said. Mrs. Quinn repeated, this is a business matter. Do it at my husband's office. Do not come on my property again. I will call the police. Well, she can't call the police on anything like that. Franklin is doing his job, service of legal papers. This, as all of the service of today, is recorded on audio tape, and the time was 6:55 p.m. Then came the long haul to Huntington Lloyd Harbor, way out in Suffolk County. At 7:35 p.m., 330 South Down Road, deponent rang the bell at the home of James A. Kofalt. Mrs. Kofalt came to the door. Is Mr. Kofalt in? Yes, but we have guests for dinner and are at the table. Can he come to the door? No, he cannot leave the guests. Will you give him this paper? Yes, certainly. Thank you. Watch out for the ice. That is not sufficient reason to refuse service. But what have I told you about these defendants? They are all fugitives of service and have been ever since December 6th to now, February the 26th. The total miles driven were 155. All service was audio tape. The total time this service required of the deponent was 8 hours. His wife also spent 8 hours out there in the car. Pursuant to CPLR Section 3082, deponent deposited true copies of same summons with complaint securely enclosed in postpaid wrappers in the main post office by the new federal courthouse, regularly maintained by the United States government at Fisher Avenue, White Plains, directed to each defendant at the addresses listed herein and also on the to list enclosed, these being defendants' last known addresses. That's the to list. I read you all those addresses before. And Bob Hope goes out with this. And attached to every summons was the same as before, that this was the fourth time that we were serving these people in hopes to get these people down to the real issue, which is freedom of speech. Enclosed with each service, as I told you, is that letter I just read you. And this service is in accordance with Rule 4, Process Federal Rules of Civil Procedure. A summons and complaint may be served upon a defendant of any class pursuant to the law of the state in which the district court is held. That would be the state of New York, County of Westchester, District Court in White Plains, Southern District. The law of the state followed is New York State Civil Practice Law and Rules, Section 308, Personal Service upon a natural person by delivering the summons within the state to a person of suitable age and discretion at the actual place of business, dwelling place, and by mailing the summons to the person to be served at his last known address. This is the fourth time deponent has served these 10 defendants. Dated White Plains, New York, February the 16th, 1994, Ash Wednesdays. Yours in truth, Franklin F. Buell. Subscribed and sworn to before me the 16th day of February, 1994, Ivan Pinerio, who is an assistant clerk of the County of Westchester in the courthouse tower. Now we have plaintiff's opposition to defendant's reply, affidavit, and memorandum received February 14th, 1994. Opposes and says her reasons for opposing defendant's second thoughts on their motion to dismiss her complaint follow. See, this is, they sent out more things as the return date, the phony return date of February the 18th approached. Kalaji got out another paper in further support for his motion to dismiss my complaint, freedom of speech. Point 1, this reply affidavit and memorandum are late. They should have been in by the return date January 24th, 1994. They should not be considered. Point 2, what does scavenger lawyer Kalaji hope to gain by listing Glendora's other lawsuits? Doesn't he know Judge Bryan has a mind of his own? Didn't he try the same ploy with Judge Fox, and didn't Judge Fox state the other lawsuits had no bearing on Judge Fox's decision? Does lawyer Kalaji deal with the issue Cablevision violated the Constitution First Amendment? Is this a small offense? Kalaji calls Glendora's lawsuit a laundry list. This has at least a connotation of clean in her arguments against the mire of Kalaji's. Glendora sent this list to Judge Bryant January 31st, 1994. Why is Kalaji always sending Judge Bryant papers Glendora has already provided? Kalaji goes on deceiving. It was Kalaji who brought up the Gannett matters. Glendora counted his lies about Gannett. Would Kalaji like to tell Judge Bryant that Glendora just was granted an order to stay by Administrative Judge Ingrassi in another court? What have Glendora's lawsuits to do with Cablevision's paying Glendora $31 million for violating her right to freedom of speech? Or with defendants Cablevision Systems Corporation, Charles Dolan, William Bell, Mark Luscott, and Francis Randolph, John Tata, James Colfax, Joseph Alnada, Thomas Garga, William Quinn defaulting and answering Glendora's summons and complaint. Or with Cablevision's putting Glendora's program back on Channel 25. Glendora will tell you that they have nothing to do with the issue, freedom of speech. This lawsuit should not be decided on Glendora's other fights for rights before other judges about bullies and monopolies and Goliaths like Cablevision beating up greedily on little people. And Glendora will tell you why defendants grasp at these thin threads of service and extraneous lawsuits. Defendants have no defense, that's why. They violated the United States Constitution. They lie about it as they may. They pay Kalaji as much as he bills them. They cannot cover up the truth that they violated Glendora's constitutional right to free speech. Glendora pasted up the pertinent parts of Magistrate Fox's recommendation. There was no need of Kalaji sending Judge Bryan a copy of the recommendation. You know that he did that? He sent all of my answer and my protest to Judge Fox's report and recommendation. He sent the whole thing to Bryan. That's improper. He was trying to prejudice Bryan. Kalaji is always trying to obfuscate. He is afraid to deal with the issue, freedom of speech. This is because defendants have no defense for their violation of the Constitution's First Amendment. To say plaintiff has no defense to defendant's motion is a circumlocution. Defendants have no defense that they violated Glendora's constitutional right to free speech. Kalaji writes, point 1, plaintiff has incorporated in her papers excerpts from documents from an unrelated action. I already dealt with that and read it to you. It was Kalaji who first mentioned the Judge Fox recommendation. He never should have, but he can't resist listing other lawsuits in his desperation to get Judge Bryant's mind off the issue that defendants violated plaintiff's First Amendment right to free speech. If defendants had a defense, he could spend his time and client's money talking about said defense. Defendant's point 2 is wrong. Glendora was damaged $31 million worth by defendants violating his constitutional right to free speech. Her complaint states the claim and the relief. Kalaji is ignoring the complaint and is trying to get Judge Bryant to ignore it. The basis for Glendora's claim is fully stated in her complaint, and Judge Bryant has already written plaintiff's motion would have been granted January the 25th, 1994. In his second thought paper, Kalaji did not dare mention he did not know there was a federal law sustaining an independent action for infliction of emotional disturbance in the absence of physical contact. As for second thoughts of defendants on their page 3, how can they try to cover up the fact that Cablevision telephoned Glendora just before the 7th Friday telecast and censored her show and violated her right to read the public record, the court record, and the Nassau County record on TV? That's what they violated, and that's freedom of speech. How can they try to cover up that there is an audio tape of this, that there is a transcript of this violation of freedom of speech? This is what the matter of law is. The matter of law is that these defendants violated Glendora's right to free speech and to read the record as it was because certain politicians and judges found the truth read to the public each Friday night exposed their bad record, and that these public officials put the heat on the Cablevision defendants to black out Glendora's program. Nowhere have Cablevision defendants proved that this is not so. They've never even dealt with the issue. They're afraid to. In addition to violation of the First Amendment, these 10 Cablevision defendants violated Congress's intent of 1984 that cable TV should be a forum to inform the public and to stimulate public debate. We are a free and open society, and voters have to know the truth to make the right choices. And here we quote the elegant statement of Manhattan Neighborhood Network, which is where my public access program is on, in Manhattan Cable TV, Time Warner, and Paragon Manhattan Cable TV. Public access television enables individuals and community groups to gain access to our most powerful communications medium, television. The electronic soapbox, uncensored, non-commercial channels on which to say what is on their minds. Their programs may be talk shows, live events, documentaries, interactive or phone call-ins, or video art. To exercise their First Amendment rights through the medium of cable television. Our purpose is to ensure the ability of residents to exercise their First Amendment rights through the medium of cable television.